welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. This is what we have in store for you on this May 14th, 2013 edition.
Tonight, the White House says it had no idea the DOJ seized the AP's phone records.
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Plus, Matt Drudge says we should assume that all communications are being monitored. And a hot mic reveals lawmakers' intent to confiscate guns. That's up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
And welcome back. Top story headline. The White House says it had no idea the DOJ seized the AP's phone records. Now, this is the same White House that said that they had no idea about Operation Fast and Furious. They have no idea about the current situation in the Benghazi hearings. They just don't know anything. And I'm not saying anybody in the White House is directly responsible for any one particular thing, but these things are really starting to add up on them, and I do think Mrs. Clinton had more than a little bit to do with Benghazi. I'll just throw that out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the article here. Other than press reports, we have no knowledge of any attempts by the Justice Department to seek phone records of the AP. The White House press secretary, Jay Carney, told reporters in New York Monday night, "We are not involved in decisions made in connection with criminal investigations, as those matters are handled independently by the Justice Department." And at this point, we cannot prove otherwise, but my deal with the White House, they just don't want to hold anybody accountable. You don't know about Fast and Furious, you don't know about Benghazi, maybe you weren't directly involved, but I'm pretty sure you have the resources if you quit taking, $7 million vacations and playing golf every 2 or 3 days to actually get some work done. So hopefully we can get something done on that front. Now let's go to this updated response from the AP, and you can see it right there on your screen. Let's scroll down. This is something from the president and CEO of the Associated Press. "We appreciate the DOJ's prompt response, but it does not adequately address our concerns. The letter simply restates the law." And let's scroll down a little bit further. "Rather than talk to us in advance, they seized these phone records in secret, saying that notifying us would compromise their investigation." Now, this supposed investigation took place, I guess, about a year or so ago. An AP story dealt with some sensitive information, so the DOJ took the initiative to go out, well, I want to say seize the initiative, may have in fact broken the law, to go out and take the phone records of AP reporters, I believe about 20 or so, monitoring their phone conversations, who they called, the length of those conversations, but as of yet, I guess they've yet to divulge if they recorded the content of those phone calls. I don't know why you would go through all this trouble of tracking the calls, who they called, the duration of the calls, and not record the content. It sounds pretty silly to me, but that's the bridge that they are trying to sell you. Let's go on to another guy who knows a little bit about the media. That is Matt Drudge, and he had this to say. He said, "Assume all communications are being monitored." And this is a tweet from Mr. Drudge. There you go. That's a nice graphic right there. All right, let's go to the tweet from Mr. Drudge. "Warning to reporters and sources. Assume all your communications are being monitored. Time to move back to the parking lot." And that reference that he made is a Watergate reference. You can see it. Maybe we can go back to that full screen. I actually quite enjoy that. Yeah, move back to the parking lot. That is a Watergate reference. So if you're not too up on that, I definitely encourage you to look into the Watergate scandal. Now let's move on to some different news, some CIA news. CIA agent intercepted in Moscow by FSB. Now this agent was allegedly trying to recruit another officer. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Possessions said to be in Mr. Fogel's are laid out on the table. They include a sum of money in 500 euro banknotes and 2 wigs, one of which he was apparently wearing at the time of his detention. FSB counterintelligence agents detained a CIA staff member who had been working under the cover of a third political secretary of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. As of the moment of his detention, special technical equipment was discovered, written instructions for the Russian citizen being recruited, as well as a large sum of money and the means for altering appearance. So it seems like a very bizarre thing. This guy has multiple wigs. That's pretty laughable in itself. But to talk about the CIA recruiting people, this is not uncommon. As a matter of fact, I believe it was April 29th, myself and David Knight had a chance to talk with Cannibal Edmonds on the Alex Jones radio show. So I definitely encourage you to go and look at that interview on prisonplanet.tv or even on YouTube. April 29th, Cannibal Edmonds broke down how the CIA actually goes about recruiting new recruits, not just CIA, but other organizations as well. If they want you to be a patsy or, some type of snitch, the rings that they go through to get you in the fold. So we'll move on now. Exclusive. Shootings by Philly police soar as violent crime plummets. We have a lot of people on the streets with guns, and a lot of people who are not afraid to use guns, and a lot of them are not afraid to assault a police officer. Let's skip down to the third quote. And despite that trend, the number of suspects who actually fired on the police fell from a high of 12 in 2010 to a total of 3 in 2012, according to police statistics. The total assaults on police, regardless of whether the suspects were armed, continue their downward trend, falling from 912 to 896 last year. We only shot back 52 times. It makes me laugh just hearing it. We only shot back 52 times, said the police commissioner Ramsey. Now, that was just a small snippet of that article. You can go and read it for yourself. And Mr. Ramsey says he does not like being compared to other cities such as Chicago or Dallas or any place else, because it doesn't take in the totality of circumstances of why his officers firing back is so high. And I can understand that to an extent. Maybe there are just more people armed in his city. That is a possibility. I doubt they have more guns in Chicago, but hey, whatever the case, or at least the criminals have more guns, I should say. But this is a situation where, if we can take a look back at the article, it says we only shot back 52 times. Now, I could be wrong on this. I'm assuming 52 times was in the year of 2012. But if we can just go one right there, and you can see people fired at the police a total of 3 times in 2012. So 3 incidents of a suspect shooting at an officer doesn't necessarily mean that they hit them. But then we go down to the bottom, and they shot back 52 times. That seems largely disproportionate to me. Once again, I'm assuming that 52 number was from the year of 2012, but 3 versus 52 is a huge, huge difference. Now let's go on to a story. You guys who were watching the Alex Jones or maybe listening to the Alex Jones radio show today saw this. Oops, hot mic reveals lawmakers intent to confiscate guns. Now, it wasn't a hot mic when I caught, well, not just me, but myself and David Knight caught the Austin City Councilman Mike Martinez saying he wants to confiscate guns. And we'll talk about that in just 1 second. But let's say I like that graphic to whoever made that. Let's take a look at this, and we'll just show you the guilty parties involved in this hot mic clip, and then we'll go to the clip. This is Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg, Assistant Majority Senate Leader Sandra Cunningham, and Senate Majority Leader Whip Linda Greenstein. So let's go ahead and take a look at that hot mic clip. Wow, okay, so they said it straight out. We want to confiscate. And yesterday I had a chance to go out to the Texas Capitol building, talk to some great patriots out there, people who were concerned about their Second Amendment rights. And one of the things I asked them, I said, hey, how do you feel about not Austin Police Chief? He's not in favor of gun confiscations, at least not yet anyway. But Austin City Council member Mike Martinez saying that he wants to confiscate your guns and make the gun ban legitimate. And this is what the people had to say.
My name is Michelle Prescott, and I'm the founder of Texan Gun Rights.
And I'm Tammy Kuntz, and I am the co-founder of Texan Gun Rights.
This event here today, this is about getting our legislators to do what they need to do. They need to get these bills out of the committee onto the House floor so that we can have a vote.
HB 700, which is the open carry bill. We have the Senate Bill 182, which is the campus carry bill. And also HB 3218, which is really a biggie because that one, in a sense, would null and void all gun-free zones across the state of Texas.
My name's Drew Springer from Munster, Texas, House District 68. I authored House Bill 3218, which deals with CHLs anywhere, meaning if you have your CHL, you should be able to carry concealed anywhere in the state of Texas.
We see the new technology, the 3D printable gun technology. You're familiar with that? that?
Yes.
Okay, now do you think that's covered under the Second Amendment?
I think so. I mean, again, it's an infringement issue, and he's free to do anything else he wants with that technology.
When it comes to the 3D printable firearm, technology needs to keep up with, you know, what's happening, and the police they need to keep up with what's going on. And if they can't keep up, then that's on them.
And what are they going to do? It was downloaded like 100,000 times, and it's on 23,000 different websites. I mean, there's no way stopping it now.
The printable is so new right now that we don't really know what's going on. But my understanding is that that is actually going to be more expensive to actually do that at home than to go buy a gun at a gun store.
Well, were you aware that Austin City Council member Mike Martinez said in a recent speech that he wants to make the gun ban legitimate?
First of all, to the gentleman that's dying for attention, someone needs to inform him that there is no gun ban currently. But because of the work that we're doing here today, we will make your sign legitimate shortly.
I saw the YouTube of that, and it made me want to get in my car and drive down here and just try and talk some sense into him. But at that point, when a person is that far gone, there really is no talking any sense to them.
He can't do that. That was settled in 1795. We've already fought for that gun right.
I think it's silly. I think everywhere you look, from the FBI statistics to just comparing places that have gun bans, it shows that they don't work.
Councilman Martinez needs to focus his attention on relieving traffic off of I-35 and keep his hands off of our Second Amendment rights.
We want to vote now! We want to vote now! We want to vote! We want to vote! We want to vote now! We want to vote now!
Now, did you know that on July 4th in Washington, D.C., they're going to have a armed march with people carrying loaded, I stress, loaded rifles strapped to their backs?
Yes, I do.
How do you feel about that, and would you participate in something like that if you could?
I'm not going to say whether I participate about it. I've been thinking it over in my head, but I do support it. It takes a certain type of people to make that type of message. And I think Adam Kokesh and all his supporters are the right type of people.
I'm interested in going to Washington, D.C. I don't know about the ammo. The Constitution says we can carry weapons. It doesn't say loaded or unloaded. But I prefer not to go loaded.
I feel we should be able to carry them anywhere at any time. However, this particular situation you're talking about, if I could participate, I would. Currently not able to, but I support everyone doing it.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, as far as I feel about it, loaded, unloaded, what difference does it really make? You know, the same boat as him. If I could go, I would.
If you're going to carry it, they should be loaded. They have a purpose. They need to serve that purpose, although safely. However, I am very interested, and I will be watching the Washington event very closely. Some things need to change, and it's time to change.
You can only afford to lose freedom one time.
And that was yesterday in the city of Austin, and we've had a lot of activity in Austin lately, a lot of gun grabbing and well wishes to gun grab. You saw Mike Martinez in that clip, many other people with his sentiment of you don't need a gun. So we had a good crowd, about 50 or 60 so people out there on a Monday, people out to take off work, come to their lunch hours, but we're glad that they came out regardless, and keep fighting for your Second Amendment rights wherever you may be. Now, we will caution you about this next clip. It is very graphic. If you have young children or if you're disturbed by disturbing images, you definitely may want to avert your eyes for a second. Just listen to the headline: CIA cannibal eats dead Syrian soldier's heart, and we definitely mean that. You can see it right there in your screen. The CIA-supported Free Syrian Army has produced a video showing Abu Sakar eating the heart of a dead Syrian soldier. The NGO Human Rights Watch claims the cannibal Sakar also participated in the indiscriminate shelling of Shia villages in Lebanon, Beqa's Valley. So definitely some hot content right there, and definitely don't want you to be disturbed by that. But that's what's going on. That's what your tax dollars are funding. Every time you hear Obama or even Mitt Romney was talking about, we have to support these Syrian rebels. Those are your Syrian rebels, these cannibal guys. So that's what the Free Syrian Army is, your Syrian rebels. So just keep that in mind. Now we're going to segue from eating hearts to something else that may be equally disturbing. We're going to take a look at the Women's Deliver Conference. This is a global conference that's going to happen in Malaysia. And you say, well, what's wrong with that? If we can just freeze frame right there, and we'll show people some of the activities that are going to be going on. Well, first we have the Global Forum on Cervical Cancer Prevention. Okay, healthy birthing, okay, and saving mothers, giving life. Now you say, well, that doesn't seem too sinister. It seems like it may be something good. As a matter of fact, you bring grandma and little baby and everybody learns some good things about their reproductive health. But let's go on and let the video play, and we'll take a look at some of the other activities going on. All right, now let's freeze framing right there. Let's see, from dialogue to action on safe abortion, making safe abortion care a clinical reality, safe abortion in humanitarian settings, and using research to make a case for investigation in safe abortion care. Now, you may have your views on abortion, and I'm sure you do, but it looks to me that this conference had more than a little bit to do with abortion, and this is actually something I got off the tip line. Show tips at Infowars.com. You're welcome to submit your tip there as well. To me, it looks like a big abortion love fest going on out there in Malaysia. And people say, well, why is this important? Why are you even taking the time to comment on this? It's my understanding, like I said, I didn't have, a lot of time to look at this. We just got it today. But from what I understand, there are supposed to be some very prominent women of influence in various areas attending this conference. And while I've not been able to attain the actual guest list, when this conference does happen, if the guest list is revealed, or if you just happen to be in the area, maybe you can do a Bilderberg-style report out there with your camera trying to see which women actually show up to this, and then, hold them accountable for supporting such activities as you just saw. Now, we'll move on from an international abortion clinic to a local one. Now, this is talking about the Philadelphia abortionist. Yeah, you can see him right there, the guy right there. Philadelphia abortion doctor guilty of murder in late-term procedures. Convicted Monday of 3 counts of first-degree murder. His lawyer, Jack McMahon, argued that movements that witnesses testified to observing, a jerked arm, a cry, swimming motions, were just mere spasms. They raised questions about the ethics of late-term abortions. Simply put, they ask why a procedure done to a living baby outside the womb is murder, but destroying a fetus of similar gestation before delivery can be legal. And we just subjected you to the images of somebody having his heart ripped out, so we're not going to go into all the gory details of this particular abortionist. I do believe there is some hidden cam footage, as well as some testimony of some other things he was doing and had going on, so you can go deal with that if you think you have the heart for it. But we'll move on now to our last story of the night. Biotech's next big disaster, seeds that emit multiple pesticides. What's wrong with eating corn that has the pesticide in it? Well, think about this. Pesticide is designed to kill, correct? You say, yes, it's designed to kill bugs. Great. Now, let's say you live in Nebraska and you have corn on your plate every night. So if it kills bugs and you eat this day in, day out for however many years you may be blessed to have, at some point it's probably going to make you sick. At least that's my logic, that eating poison makes you sick, but not everybody agrees with me. Let's take a look at this article from John Rappaport. And that's aside from the evidence that the biotech's next big thing may be doomed to fail. GMO seeds are hitting a bug-covered wall. In the same way they don't have to build even more destructive H-bombs, they don't have to play roulette with the human body and brain. Translation, the 7 billion people of Earth are guinea pigs in a vast corporate experiment. Now, this is talking about, of course, the GMOs and other things that are in your food. And for more on this, we go to a special report from Leanne McAdoo.
Leanne McAdoo here with an Infowars Nightly News Alert. Now, it is no secret that corporate politics is business as usual here in the United States, but nevertheless, it's still shocking to report that the EPA has once again sided with industry lobbyists over public health by approving the use of a highly toxic pesticide linked to large-scale honeybee deaths. Now, this approval comes just after the EU outright banned the use of the same pesticide. The EU vote comes after significant findings by the European Food Safety Agency that these pesticides pose an unacceptable risk to bees and their use should be restricted. Along with habitat loss and pathogens, a growing body of science points to neonicotinoid pesticides as a key factor in drastically declining bee populations. Hey, it's not safe enough for the Europeans, just give it to the Americans. They're totally cool with stuffing their faces with our lab-created cancer cuisine. Now, the USDA did a similar report but they totally downplayed the link between pesticides and colony collapse disorder, saying they needed time for more research. Now, this time allowance is totally inconsistent with what their report had to say about the honeybee crisis. Currently, the survivorship of honeybee colonies is too low for us to be confident in our ability to meet the pollination demands of U.S. agricultural crops. So you're certain that our honeybee population will not be able to pollinate our crops, yet you authorize the use of a pesticide for the next 5 years that's going to directly harm them. So how are we supposed to sustain our agriculture here in America? Oh, wait. That's right. Harvard roboticists are already developing swarms of tiny robot bees that can pollinate the dystopian fields of genetically modified crops. Well, thank goodness. Now we won't have to go totally hungry after Monsanto destroys our natural food supply. Thanks, guys. Now, if you're looking for any more reason to get totally fired up about Monsanto, we have a bunch of really great DVDs at the Infowars store. The World According to Monsanto and Farmageddon are both excellent documentaries to educate yourself on the threat to our food supply. Also, check out my report on the March Against Monsanto, happening around the world on May 25th. It's not too late. We can still protect our food sovereignty. I'm Leanne McAdoo, and this has been an Infowars Nightly News Alert.
A great report from Leanne. She actually has a fan page on Planet Infowars now. I definitely suggest you go and tell her that you want her to participate in the fan page and tell her to use a real name so we don't have trolls and fake Leannes out there. So that one's for you, Miss McAdoo. Now that's it for this news portion. Let's go to our quote of the day. This from Abraham Lincoln himself. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Now, I have mixed feelings about Mr. Lincoln. He also had the internment camps for his political prisoners and so on. So I'm not saying he's the greatest president ever, but, you know, that's a very good quote right there. So that's it for the news portion. We'll be back after this with George Barnes. He's one of the participants in the Paul Revere contest. He's going to tell us about chemtrails. But first, if you'd like to support this broadcast and you wanted to see it continue, go to prisonplanet.tv and get yourself a 15-day free trial. A lot of great stuff. You can see it right there. The door-to-door, get out of your house in Boston that never happened, according to many of the other mainstream. But that's it for this portion, and stay tuned after this break. We'll be back with George Barnes.
The important thing about the Pro 1 filter today is that the material we use for removing fluoride and other heavy metals now will remove the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid. There's no other fluoride reduction filter out there that will remove that type of fluoride. And it's extremely important because today we're hearing more and more cities are using that form of fluoride.
We've been having medication forced on us through the water system for quite a while. Most people don't realize it. Most people don't realize the negative effects of fluoride.
There's a wide range of health effects that are attributed to fluoride.
Bottom line, why should somebody get this new Pro 1 Pro Pure filter?
The reason to buy the Pro 1, it's an all-in-one filter. It's convenient, easy to use. It doesn't require the add-on fluoride filter. And in addition, this filter removes the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid.
I'm Darren McBreen, and these are some of the new items that are available now at InfoWarsShop.com. Alert the public to Obama's blatant abuse of power with the new Obama t-shirt. Obama's Joker face on the front and come and take it on the back. It's time to publicly call him out for what he is, a tyrant. Defend the Second Amendment with our top seller Come and Take It t-shirts. And look at that, women's cut tank tops and t-shirts now available. Nice hat. Plus the Don't Tread on Me flag. And now you can become a micro distributor of the Infowars magazine. Plus, get your own copy delivered right to your door each and every month. And if you're tired like I am of you and your family being exposed to polluted drinking water, get the Pro 1 high-performance water filter. It gets rid of all pathogenic bacteria, cyst, fluoride, heavy metals, and numerous other contaminants. So join the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
And welcome back. Our guest tonight is George Barnes. He is a participant in the Paul Revere Film Contest. Now, definitely want to inform everybody that contest has ended as far as the submission, but we're still reviewing the submissions that we've gotten in the proper format and in the proper time of the regulations. Now, I want to caution everybody that we have not selected any finalists from the Paul Revere contest. This is just one of the standout entries that we got. So without any further ado, let's go to our contestant tonight, Mr. George Barnes. All right, thanks for joining us, George.
Hi, thank you.
All right, now, George, tell us, first of all, how did you hear about the Paul Revere contest and what prompted you to make a video about this topic?
Well, what prompted me to make a video about the topic was I came across the topic by accident. I am a professional photographer. That's what I do. And I was testing some time-lapse equipment, and when I made a mistake in processing the footage. At the end of the day, I was just testing the camera, shooting the sky. So when I played the footage backwards, I saw that the entire overcast sky, when played backwards, was in fact being created by military jets flying in a grid pattern over my house. So that was pretty troubling. And like I say, I'm a commercial photographer, and we have a news producer, so I asked her to look into it, and almost instantly the geoengineering topic came up. So it was really troubling. I spent the next several months researching the topic and doing some science, because I wasn't understanding and I just wanted to get more science-based, because I'm a factual science-based guy just in general. So,
that's the way to be, especially with a topic that can be very controversial, as you explored in your film. And that's probably why I want to go first off. We hear the term chemtrail, we hear the term contrail, and you've also had another term that you had in your videos called stratospheric aerosols. Is that correct, sir?
Stratospheric aerosols is what they are. Chemtrails is really, it's a slang word. It's just kind of a generic expression, but when you actually dive into the literature and the research, you see that persistent contrails is in all the government literature and all the science literature. Stratospheric aerosol spraying, climate management, solar radiation management, geoengineering. These are all phrases and programs that are, supposedly experimental. But of course, everybody knows when you're experimenting, you actually have to do something to experiment. So that's what kept coming up, was the geoengineering, the factual side of the science, what creates persistent contrails. And that was the road that I went down, because that was what was really interesting. What's the variation between a regular contrail and a persistent contrail? And everything that I came up with all linked back to climate change. The administration's always discussing climate change, climate change, climate change. And geoengineering creates climate change.
Well, let's talk about climate change for 1 second, because that's a very controversial topic within itself. Aside from the chemtrails or whatever you may phrase them, people say, well, you can't modify the weather. If we can go back to that document, Cam, I know you can't see them on your end, George, but we have a few documents here. This is from BBC News. This is July of 2012. Why won't the UK make the sunshine for the Olympics? Make the sunshine. I'll move on here to another one. USA Today, rain out. China aims to control Olympics weather. That talks about some cloud seeding as well. LA Times, China plans to halt rain for the Olympics. So these are some publications that people view as being very credible. I've had my issues with them in the past, but let's just say this is a good, credible information here. So that just goes on to show that there is weather modification.
Yeah, well, there definitely is weather modification. It's in the scientific literature. If you look at, there's huge debates about the governance of geoengineering. I mean, it's a real program. Weather modification is, in fact, a program. There's some companies, there's a company, Weather Modification, Inc. in the United States. That's what they do, weather modification. So it's not a question of whether or not we have the capacity to change the climate. The fact is that persistent contrails, whether they're chemically enhanced or otherwise, do change the weather. So the climate change is human caused. So the geoengineering is just an enhanced method to block out the sun, to, there's all types of conspiracies as to why they're doing that. And it's really a shame that the administration's not just coming out and educating the public as to what they are trying to do, but the visual evidence that we've seen since I started this project has just been overwhelming. There is no doubt in my mind that it's taking place. And
all somebody has to do is go outside and look outside and ask their grandparents, hey, grandma, grandpa, did it look like this when you were a kid? Was the sky that dark? The estimates I heard was the Earth is now 20% darker than what it was in years previous.
That is correct. And, you bring up an interesting point. If you look on the homepage, the thumbnail of that school, that Roosevelt Elementary School with the trails coming off it. Mm-hmm. Do you see that? That's what the thumbnail of the video is. Take that school, for example. I went to that elementary school. My daughters went to that elementary school. My father went to that elementary school. My grandfather built that elementary school. Those are new. Those lines in the sky, that path, that flight path, that's coming out of the military Air Force base there at I think it's the National Guard base, Stewart Stewart. What's it called? Stewart.
What city is that? What city is that?
It's right outside of Newburgh, New York. That's where the Air Force base is.
Right.
That school is in River Edge, New Jersey.
Okay.
And what's funny is if you turned around 180 degrees, you get the flight path of Newark Airport. Now, on that particular day, which was, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I could see these planes coming out of the military base. And when I turned around, there was not one trail coming out of Newark Airport. Now, I mean, Newark Airport, the flights are every, 90 seconds?
Right.
And there's no trails out of that. So it's just the visual evidence that it's occurring is just overwhelming. It's not atmospheric. I've got pictures that I see planes creating these condensation trails and other planes not creating the condensation trails, actually flying through. So how can one plane be making it and another plane not?
And you pointed that out in your video, and I'm very glad you brought up that point, because I don't know if we can scroll to it in time, but if you're a viewer, you can go and watch his video. And in the video, just like I said, he has the contrails up in the sky, chemtrails, whatever you want to call them, and a plane flies through and leaves a clear path of where the plane flew. Now, from your experience and your research, when a plane flies through a normal cloud, does it leave that kind of a trail?
No, it doesn't. And if it does, it's for a second. It's more of a wash if it's flying through a normal trail.
Right.
But these planes went through, and the trails were there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's just not a real cloud. I don't know what else to say. It's an artificial cloud. Yeah, we are creating artificial cloud cover. There's no question in my mind.
Exactly. Just like I said, all you have to do is go outside and take a look. We're here in the city of Austin, and I was driving downtown yesterday to cover a report, and I looked out, the cityscape, all the skyscrapers out there, and I was like, oh, the sky just looks dirty. It's like these contrails in the city of Austin where they trail pretty heavy. Yeah. One of the things I was told when I came to Austin was, if you don't have allergies, you'll probably get them pretty soon. I was like, well, why does everybody have allergies in Austin? I'm not saying it's just this one particular thing, but heavy chemtrailing within the city of Austin, Texas.
Heavy. And, since I launched this app, I'm getting an amazing amount of people from Texas and also Indiana and Illinois, which I was not expecting at all, but I'm getting an overwhelming response from those states. So, it's new. People are seeing it, and they're, it's not something that was always there. It's not a natural phenomenon. I mean, it can occur naturally in very, very specific climate situations, super saturated, very cold, high altitude. But what's happening, if you look back in the literature, is all of these chemical additives are changing the ice nucleation point. It's changing the point that it can create the clouds. So it's enhancing the manufacturing of clouds, which is, horrifying. You're going to block out the sun? That's terrible.
Yeah, it's just like, what's that movie, The Matrix, the first Matrix movie? It's getting a little sci-fi, but they black out the sky to kill the robots, because I guess at the time in The Matrix, the robots were solar powered. So that brings me to another point. Why do you think they're doing this? From your research, why do you think they would go out and purposely spray these aerosols into the air?
The research seems to indicate that they're trying to deflect the sunlight to combat global warming, and actually combat, really, if you really dig into the research, it looks like it's to combat the CO2 dumps and the CO2 emissions from aviation, because the aviation industry, as I've learned, is now taking exactly the wrong things, the most dangerous parts of carbon, and putting them in precisely the worst place in the atmosphere and in the stratosphere. So the objective is spraying these artificial clouds beyond that, theoretically, to prevent the warming, the sun's rays, the light's rays coming through.
So they kind of bounce off, the sun rays bounce off this reflective material.
That's what the theory is. That's the theory behind geoengineering, and that's what John Holdren speaks about. That's in our film. He's got that clip, and he talks about it. The multiple problems are: A, the chemical components are toxic, and they do only stay in the sky for so long. The patents have them as up to 1 year. Up to means, whatever. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. And the other problem is, the evidence is showing the more they're doing it, the warmer the planet's getting, specifically at night. So when the sun comes out in the morning, they start to spray, the heat comes in for the day, the sunlights come down through through the artificial clouds, and they can't escape. The planet can't cool at night. And if you noticed, it's really interesting. If you notice, the cool nights are now fewer and fewer and further in between. It's not a huge difference, a couple degrees, but the nights are no longer cooling off. And a lot of the science points to the fact that we are, in fact, trapping the warming and not allowing it to outgas into outer space and allowing the planet to cool out.
Now no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, just from this artificial cloud cover that's being created.
Now, you touched on this a little bit earlier when I said we have heavy chemtrails here in Texas. Are there any particular locations where this seems to be done more often, not just here in the U.S., is it done worldwide?
I have to tell you, the Paul Revere contest was really my motivating force to create this film and to actually finish it and make it into a film rather than just a series of segments and a research project. That was just a personal research project of mine because I'm, exceptionally concerned about the issue. So beyond that, making the mobile app to actually document where it's going on has only been out. I mean, the global version's only been out for 2 days. So I don't really know. I don't have enough data yet, but it's coming in. We're getting 500-600 people a day from around the world sending things in now.
All right, and you mentioned your app, so tell us a little bit about that. It's called the Skyder Alert.
Skyder Alert. Okay, the app is a breakthrough tool for any type of activism. What I had thought about is, okay, so you make a documentary, you make a fantastic documentary. Now what? You educate the people. That's great. It's a great start. But when it comes to what can the people actually do about it, it's pretty limited. I mean, you can call your legislator, you can try and find who they are or where they are, but as we know, that's complicated too, especially if you're not in your hometown. I mean, how many times you go into, or whatever, you go to a vacation in Kansas, you don't know who the governing people are there, but they are responsible for your safety. They have that responsibility. So what the app enables you to do is when you see the geoengineering taking place in the sky, or even the persistent contrails, or whatever you'd like to call it, chemtrails, whatever, you take a picture of it, and the app auto-populates the appropriate legislators, the representative from the U.S. House, the two senators, the governor, and a couple other media contacts that are reporting on the same issue in that area, wherever you are.
That's a very useful tool.
It's a very useful tool, and what I'm seeing is it can be utilized for any type of initiative. When you see some other type of environmental dumping happening, who would you call? How would you know who to contact? Child abuse. I mean, any type. Beyond
anything way beyond spraying in the skies. I know that's what your app is set up for, but it can be a very useful tool. I see report a bank theft. Hey, I just saw Ben Bernanke here saying he wants to take some more of our money away. But we're about out of time. George, can you give us your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts, yes. My closing thoughts, the administration is going to push the climate change agenda. They're going to talk about it more and more, and it's important that people understand geoengineering and the realities of it. And we just need more transparency from the government because it's a very, very dangerous project. When you block the sun, there are a host of other side effects. And the app hopefully will bring awareness to the entire world about this geoengineering issue. And it's nice to have it tied back into the film, and it's great to be tied back into your film contest, because I think your contest is awesome. I think it's great.
Thank you, sir. Can you tell us the name of your video on YouTube?
Yeah, the video is called Look Up. Really simple. Look Up, Operation Paul Revere is the title, but it's just because we want people to look up. And the app is called Skyder Alert, all one word. And that's it. When you send it, you are, in fact, sending a Skyder Alert. And a petition and the evidence goes directly to the government.
If nothing else, I think it'd be good to make people address the issue. You have so many people who don't want to address it. They don't want to be seen as kooky or whatever the situation may be, and now they actually have to address it.
Right, they have to address it. And, and I don't know where that number is as far as, like, people bringing it up. Is it 5,000 people? 50,000 people, 5 million people, but there's no doubt in my mind that there is a number of people. When we have a certain number, we will get attention from the administration, and they're just going to have to come clean on the program. And it's a military program, very, very scary program. I mean, it's terrifying.
And I saw it wasn't on your piece, but it was one of the chemtrail videos I had a chance to watch, and it was a meteorologist, and he said he used to be in the military, and he said, when I was in the military, they ran drills like this where they dumped chaff up into the sky.
I saw that too.
And it's, it very much concerns me, like you pointed out in your film, what happens when this stuff hits the ground. You show that water, that dirty water. And also, we didn't even touch on this, but Monsanto has aluminum resistant seeds, and it's come out that a lot of these condensation chemtrails, whatever you want to call them, have aluminum in them. So, you have the problem action solution where Monsanto is already ready for these aerosols to hit the ground.
That's correct. And, the key ingredient is aluminum. They talk about it. It's in the patents. And it's funny. I did a toxicology test on my hair, and I'm aluminum toxic. I have 2 girls. They're high in aluminum. They're high in lead. They're high in mercury. They're high in strontium. It's all the same ingredients that are in the patents. And that's really troubling. That foam, did you see the pictures of the foam?
Oh, yeah.
In the video?
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's in watersheds. I was filming at watersheds. I was upstate New York. Yeah. That was at when you see that shot of the Delaware intake. Mm-hmm. I just turned the camera 180 degrees and clicked off the sign so I know where I was. Wow. I was at that is the main water feed for the city of New York. And it's funny, when people say, well, it's just from the road or whatever. The problem was the stuff was on the car.
Right.
It was on me. I actually had a motorcycle on the back of the car. It was on the motorcycle seat, so it's not. That's
really disgusting. I never really thought about that until I watched your video, because we always think about, this stuff affecting the soils and stuff, but, outdoor water supply, it falls into your water.
It falls into the water, and in the Vermont watershed, where I saw that foam going, I actually have pictures of it going down, washing down the street into the catch basin that goes into the reservoir. It's going directly into the reservoir. And if these are nanoparticles, which is what all the evidence and all the documents seem to say, it's all nanoparticulate matter, which means it's very, very, very small. Like I believe it's 10 microns, which is a hundredth of the thickness of a piece of hair. You can't really filter it.
Wow. Yeah. So, George, tell us one more time where we can access that app.
The app is on iTunes for Apple, and it's on Google Play for Android.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining us, George.
Excellent. Thanks. And you got my number. You can call me anytime. It's developing. We're getting tremendous. It's gone hyper viral. I invented the word Skyder Alert 2 weeks ago. We're on 9,000 websites according to Google today. So
awesome. Well, that's growing.
It's really catching on.
All right. We take care, George. We got to get on and shoot the news. But definitely excited about your app and your video, and you did great work.
Fantastic. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Another great contestant from Operation Paul Revere, which was exactly what Alex was trying to do. He wanted to get people out there to go out and make films. Even if you don't win the contest, it's great that you got this information out there. And I would like to stress we have not selected a winner or even finalist, so don't fret. if we haven't called you yet, and you may just end up here on the Infowars Nightly News talking about your project on the air. Now, if you'd like to learn more about chemtrails, contrails, aerosols in the air, whatever you want to call them, we have these two films right here. Why in the world are they spraying, and what in the world are they spraying? They're both available in the Infowars store. You can see them right here, two great films. If we can put up that graphic right there, yeah, you can see them right there on your store, the Chemtrails Combo Pack, and you can get that for $34.90. Two great films to show your friends and family. So that's it for this edition of the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson, and we'll see you tomorrow night.